It looked like Ford Field out there in Lambeau. Did you see how many Lions fans were out there?
There were
And Sam Flannel, I want to say this because I didn't want to give it away last segment because, again, we have this tendency to just spill everything in the first segment because there's a lot to get to.
Yeah.
If you would have told me, Sam, that the first 4 games, both they'd win in Lambeau and at Arrowhead,
yes,
I would have told you you're crazy.
Yes.
They did both. They won both road games. They're 2-0 on the road. And more than that, I wanted to bring up something that I kind of mentioned yesterday. Because you look at this Lions team, they're one of the youngest rosters. Yeah, they added veterans. They were one of the youngest rosters last year. This team, in the youth they have, they don't remember. They weren't here with the Lions when Aaron Rodgers was haunting us. They weren't here. You look at the young players, all they know now is beating the Packers. That's the mentality switch for this football team. Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, no Kirby Joseph, but even when Kirby was playing, all these guys know is dominating the Packers. And I'm telling you, that means something. That's the mental switch. That's what Dan Campbell did when he first got here, is made these guys believe. And they did. And they went into Lambeau. They took care of the Packers in Lambeau Field, which historically a tough place to play. And you look at just more than that too, which is crazy to say this. But the Detroit Lions, and like I said last segment, they are the hunted. There is nobody else in this division that is close. The Packers are the closest. You took care of them at home. And you think about it, the next time they play the Packers is Thanksgiving, and they play them at home. So you look at the injuries too, and I didn't even get to that because that's a lot of credit to the coaching staff and to the players. You talk about no C.J. Gardner-Johnson, no Kirby Joseph, no Emmanuel Mosley, no problem. That's how they treated this. That defense was dominant, and Sam Flannel, this is the first game so far this season. They've played a complete football game, offensively efficient. You talk about the Jared Goff turnover, it is what it is. The defense held in the 3. The defense was dominant. This was the first complete football game. Yep. The Falcons game was a good win, but the offense, they couldn't convert in the red zone, but they still won the football game. That's all that matters. They're a couple plays from being 4-0, Sam Flannel. That's significant. And I think if they keep on winning, the conversation isn't going to go from just the NFC North. We're talking NFC. Like, we're looking at the big dogs, as you should be. But right now, I think a lot of Lions fans are just like, hey, win the division. That's our focus. Win these divisional games. If you keep beating teams like you have been the last 2 games, and even at Arrowhead, we're talking, okay, Eagles, 49ers. How do the Lions match up with those guys in the postseason? It's a new era in Detroit Lions football, and a lot of credit to the coaches and the players for that.
Yes, when two of your divisional opponents are 0-3, which statistically means they are done. And when you watch those teams play, particularly the Chicago Bears, they are 100% done. And then your one divisional opponent that you think might have a shot or might at least have a chance to challenge you or maybe even challenge for a wild card spot, you go into their building and beat them by 17. You outrush them 211-27. You force Jordan Love to throw the football 36 times because you get up on them 27-3 at halftime, which we all knew was a winning formula because Jordan Love, he's not Desmond Ridder, but he is, he's proven to be, a little bit less than mid because he threw 2 interceptions, both of them to Jerry Jacobs, by the way. Shout out. We'll get to him more later. It was just, I expected the Lions to win this game. 100%. Certainly when they got Taylor Decker and David Montgomery, it was made known that they were playing, and they made a hell of an impact, by the way. I didn't expect them to thoroughly dominate the way that they did. I mean, you talked about it, a complete game. We all know that the strength of this team is the offensive line.
Right.
They hadn't really put together a full game of dominant running of the football. We had some good games from David Montgomery and a good game from Jahmyr Gibbs last week against Atlanta, but this was the game in which they rushed for over 200 yards. If you do that in the NFL, you pretty much have a 90% chance of winning. That's not based in a stat or anything that I can correlate, but you know what I mean. It shows that you dominate. If you outrush your opponents by damn near 200, and while also winning the turnover battle, you dominate that football game. And
right.
that was a statement. The NFC North is the Detroit Lions and it's here to stay. And the Packers are probably licking their wounds and even questioning if they're good or not. It's 4 games into the season, and we're feeling so great about our position. We're 3-1. It's exactly where we thought we would be.
And you think about it, too, for Jordan Love's sake, and this is the one thing that I kind of mentioned in the pregame show, but I really believe it to be true. It's the psychology of it, right? And we talk about confidence, what it means for Lions players. What about for Jordan Love? Like, for a guy that young, starting a handful of football games, every time he's seen the Lions, he's lost. That's what he knows mentally. That matters. Like, Aaron Rodgers has been whooping ass for 20 years, and Jordan Love, in his first handful of games, has taken L's. That's what matters, because now Jordan Love is like, okay, the big bad Lions. You think Aaron Rodgers ever said that?
No.
Aaron Rodgers always looked at it. He's like, I'm the father in this division. Well, guess what, Jordan Love? You're the son. You're the cute little son, Jordan Love. And they're going to keep bullying you for a long time. And listen, I might have said that last night on the pregame show. I'm nervous what Jordan Love could be. He stinks right now.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Who knows what he looks like in 5 years, but as of right now, he stinks. And the Detroit Lions, they set nothing's better as a Lions fan. I know a lot of people can relate to this, than setting records in Lambeau Field. Isn't that great? And I'll read some records for you guys, because that's what's significant. Held Green Bay to 27 yards rushing, the fewest they've allowed against Green Bay since October 25th, 1987. Scored 34 points at Green Bay, their most in Green Bay since January 1st, 2012. Setting records, franchise records in Green Bay with the help of some of these younger players too. Sam Laporta, crazy stat on Sam Laporta too. And this is unbelievable, because I couldn't believe it when I first read it either. Sam Laporta, rookie tight end, has more receptions, 22, in his first career games than any tight end in NFL history. Any tight end in NFL history, Sam. Not just Lions. Any tight end. You put the Hall of Famers up. Mike Ditka, he had more than him. The only tight end with more receiving yards, though, is Mike Ditka. He has 242. Mike Ditka had 315. More receptions in about 60 yards, but 70 yards under Mike Ditka. We're talking about a guy that's on a trajectory right now that's damn scary. Had 4 catches again last night. Josh Reynolds showed up. That's a guy I asked to show up. I talked about him yesterday. For me, it was Aleem McNeil and Josh Reynolds. And boy, did they show up. Aleem McNeil, and we talked about this before the show, you could argue the second best game of his career. Behind the Saquon Barkley, what he did against the New York Giants. That was unbelievable. Guys stepped up. I saw Jack Campbell now kind of playing some of that Sam linebacker, filling in for James Houston there. The guys just stepped up in the secondary. And like I said, no C.J. Gardner-Johnson. No Emmanuel Mosley still. No Kirby Joseph. You have Tracy Walker out there coming off an Achilles injury. No problem. No problem. Brian Branch, a little banged up. We'll see how that progresses, but he played great when he was on the football field as well. Everybody stepped up, especially that defensive line. And boy, I'm telling you one thing. When they're playing at their best, they're playing like this, and Jared Goff said it best, they can beat anybody, but more than that, they can travel anywhere. Guess what, Sam Flannel? That offensive line travels.
Yes.
That defensive line travels. How they run the ball travels. David Montgomery got 30 carries last night. 32. Like, I'm telling you, what they did yesterday, that was significant on prime time for the entire world to see. You want people doubting the Detroit Lions? Are they for real? Right, they're 2-1. Is it Fugazi? Guess what? No, it ain't. You're 3-1. And they just whooped the Packers' ass on national television. Like, that's significant. That sends a message to America. The Lions are here.
I mean, the Lions 2-1 certainly wasn't a fugazi, but the Packers 2-1, I think it is proven to be a fugazi. And you know why winning at Lambeau Field, a place which has traditionally been a house of horrors for the Lions, it's more significant than even what it means for this season. It kind of is going with the trend. What have we seen oftentimes throughout history? A lot of players play their best game against the Lions. Their running back will get their career high. A quarterback like Matt Flynn, for example, will get himself paid by the Seattle Seahawks because of what he did against the Lions. Right. But this year, Jordan Love came into the game. I know it was a little bit of a fugazi, and his completion percentage was absolutely terrible. It actually went up a little bit in this game, but
yeah,
like
that's true.
That just speaks to how bad it was. But he did have a 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is, that's like elite of elite if you do that.
Yep.
In this game, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. That's the type. I mean, those are the type of games that the Lions are now forcing opposing players into doing. Because, as I mentioned it early on I mentioned it in the last segment, but I'll get to it into more detail right now. Isaiah Pacheco, his worst game of the season was against the Lions. Kenneth Walker, his worst game of the season so far was against the Lions.
Talk to him, Sam.
Bijan Robinson, his worst game of the season by far was against the Lions. Aaron Jones, he only played in one other game. He probably wishes he would have sat out in this game because he only carried the ball 5 times for 18 yards. I mean, think about this. Jordan Love attempted 36 passes. The Green Bay Packers rushed the ball 12 times. That's a 3-to-1 ratio.
That's the path to victory. What did we talk about yesterday, Sam?
Yes.
Make Jordan Love beat you. Don't let them run the football. And guess what? The Lions defensive line said, I got you. Shut down the run. And that's ideal for guys like Desmond Ridder and Jordan Love right now in their careers. Started a handful of games. Those guys want to be comfortable. Matt LaFleur knows that. Get the run game going. Establish play action. Get those guys in favorable positions. Make easy reads. You forced Jordan Love to beat you. Thank you. And guess what? He had no chance to. He didn't. So that was the game plan. They stuck to it, and they executed.
Yep. And do you know, I mean, and I know we all watched it last night, and we saw certainly the game domination. What about the first half domination? That is one of the reasons why the Packers had to become one-dimensional, because they had to try to crawl their way out of a 27-3 hole. Do you know how hard it is to be up on an NFL team of any caliber 27-3 at halftime? In particular, a road divisional opponent, a team that, even though it was a little bit fugazi, had a 2-1 record, which coming into the game was the exact same as the Detroit Lions. When you do that and you have a quarterback like Jordan Love on the other end, you can pretty much just kick back and chill. And I know the Packers made it a little bit too close for comfort at times during the game, but once they cut it to 27-17, do you know what the Detroit Lions did? They went on a touchdown drive that took 8 minutes and 52 seconds off of the clock and closed down the club effectively. And it was and that drive was helped out by a Quay Walker stupid penalty. So that was pretty nice too. But once the Packers made it a little bit too close, the Lions of the past, they may have just went on a 3-and-out. They may have wilted. They may not have lost the game, but it would have been a close game at the end. But this Lions team, led by that offensive line, led by David Montgomery, was just like, we're going to close the door. And they did, and it was absolutely wonderful. This is what good teams do. Mm-hmm. We're not used to this. Like I would say the last 10 games of last year and the first 4 games of this year, the Lions have looked like you could argue that the Lions have looked like the better team in every game except the Carolina game. In 13 out of their last 14 games, the Lions have played well enough to win in a lot of ways.
I'll tell you what, the last 14 games, Sam Flannel, I know this dates back to last season, they're 11-3.
That's unbelievable.
11-3, everybody. Remember that big thing? They were 8-2 down the stretch. We'll see how they can keep it up. Well, you lost a close one at home to Seattle, but you're still 3-1. That's the positives in this whole thing. You're leading your division. That was the goal from the start. Win the division, host a playoff game, be favorited, and win. That's the formula. That's what I expect this year. And Sam Flannel, they're on track so far. I'll tell you that. Let's go to break. When we get back, I do want to bring up Aiden Hutchinson because Sam Flannel, your guy was out there.
He was.
Wrecking plays once again. So we have to bring him up. Darius Slay had a comment about Aiden Hutchinson. And you guys are going to want to see what he said. Because, boy, a former Lion was hyping up a current Lion. But before we do that, Sam Flannel, where should Lions fans celebrate after a victory like this?
Oh, they should celebrate now.